A cowboy who had spent 20 years hating the Apache opened his eyes expecting death, but the first hand that saved him belonged to an Apache woman. Days later, she placed an old silver spoon in his hands, and the name engraved on it shattered everything he had believed about his mother's disappearance. What happened next, and why did an entire town spend 20 years hiding the truth? Watch the full story till the end, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more unforgettable Wild West stories. Before we start the story, tell me in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is right now? The first act of kindness Elias Whitaker ever believed came from the very people he had feared all his life. He lay on the burning red sand beside an old dry well in the Arizona desert. His horse had died 2 days earlier. His canteen was empty. His lips were cracked, and every breath felt heavier than the last. 3 days ago, he had been driving cattle toward Hollow Creek. Then a violent sandstorm swallowed the trail. The herd disappeared. The road disappeared. By the time the storm passed, Elias was completely alone. The desert stripped a man of everything. It took his strength first, then his pride, then every lie he had believed. As the blazing sun burned above him, a shadow suddenly covered his face. With great effort, Elias opened one eye. A young Apache woman stood before him. She had long black hair tied into 2 neat braids. She wore a simple buckskin dress with long fringe along the sleeves. In one hand she held a wooden bowl with hot stew. In the other was a wooden cup filled with fresh water. She looked at the revolver resting near his hand. Then she looked into his tired eyes. Without fear or anger, she quietly asked, "Have you eaten?" Elias tried to answer, but only a dry cough came from his throat. The woman slowly knelt a few feet away, leaving enough space to respect his dignity. She placed the water on the ground and gently pushed it toward him. Elias grabbed the cup with shaking hands. The cold water touched his lips, and for a moment, it felt like life itself. He drank too quickly, started coughing, and turned away, embarrassed by his weakness. The woman did not laugh. She did not rush him. She simply waited. When he finally caught his breath, she broke a piece of cornbread and placed it beside the bowl. "Slow," she said softly. "Your stomach has been empty for too long." Elias stared at her in silence. Since childhood, he had heard terrible stories about Apache people. His mother had disappeared when he was only 9 years old. Everyone in Hollow Creek had always said the Apache had taken and killed her. For almost 20 years, Elias had believed those stories. Yet none of those stories had given him water. None had saved his life. Looking into her calm eyes, he whispered, "Why are you helping me?" The woman looked across the quiet desert before answering. "Because a hungry man is not an enemy yet." Her name was Iona Red Willow. She helped Elias walk to her small cedar shelter hidden between the canyon walls. It was simple but clean. Bundles of herbs hung from wooden beams. A few goats rested behind a small fence. A fire burned quietly outside. She gave him warm broth, healing herbs, and a thick blanket that smelled of sage. That night, Elias slept peacefully for the first time in many years. He did not even keep one hand on his revolver. The next morning, sunlight painted the red canyon walls with golden colors. Elias tried standing too quickly. The world spun around him. Without even turning around, Iona smiled slightly. Slow. You stand like a man trying to argue with the ground. Elias couldn't help smiling. Around him, everything had its place. Nothing was wasted. Iona placed another bowl of food near him. I can pay you, Elias said, when I get back to Hollow Creek. She calmly stirred the pot. Then go back. There was no anger in her voice, no invitation either, just honesty. Elias looked toward the desert. Hollow Creek suddenly felt very far away. He had lived there for years, yet nobody waited for him there. No family, no real friends. Just people who remembered his name whenever they needed someone to move cattle. As he quietly ate breakfast, his eyes noticed the broken fence around the goats. Your fence needs fixing, he said. The wind broke it. I can repair it. You can barely stand. Sitting never earned me much. For the first time, Iona's face almost showed a smile. You white men always think kindness must be paid back. Elias lowered his eyes. Maybe she was right. Still weak, he slowly walked toward the broken fence. He repaired each broken rail with care. Sweat rolled down his face. More than once he had to stop and catch his breath. Iona watched from the shade. She never rushed to help. She knew his pride needed room to heal. When he finished, one little goat pushed its nose against the repaired fence and sneezed dust onto his boots. Elias laughed. I think she approves. A tiny smile appeared on Iona's face. She approves of anything that keeps her out of the cactus. The days became peaceful. Elias carried water from the spring. He repaired torn canvas. He chopped wood. Iona gathered herbs and prepared medicine. Neither of them talked much, yet every shared silence slowly built trust. That evening they sat beside the fire while coyotes howled somewhere beyond the canyon. You live alone? Elias asked. Most people do, Iona replied quietly, even when they are surrounded by others. My mother used to sing while she cooked, Elias said after a long silence. I don't remember the words anymore. Only the tune. Without saying anything else, Iona softly began humming. Just a simple melody. No words, only music. The moment Elias heard it, his entire body froze. His heart pounded. That was his mother's song. He remembered rainy nights, warm bread, his mother's gentle hands brushing his hair before bed. The same melody, exactly the same. His voice trembled. Where did you learn that song? Iona became very quiet. She walked to a small wooden box inside her shelter. Carefully opening it, she lifted a worn silver spoon wrapped inside old buckskin. She brought it into the firelight. 2 faded words were still clearly carved into the handle. Eliza Whitaker. Elias stared at it without breathing. His mother's name. The spoon his family had owned. Every story he had believed since childhood suddenly began to crack apart. Looking at the spoon with shaking eyes, he whispered, You knew my mother? Iona looked into the fire before answering. Eat first. Elias stood up. Please, I need the truth. She met his eyes with quiet kindness. Some truth should never be given to a hungry man. The fire burned quietly between them. Elias could not take his eyes off the silver spoon. His mother's name was carved into the handle exactly as he remembered. His hands trembled. "I thought," he whispered, "I thought the Apache killed her." Iona slowly sat beside the fire. "No. My mother found a sick woman alone in the desert many years ago. She had a high fever, no horse, no food, no strength left. That woman was your mother." Elias felt as if the ground beneath him had disappeared. "My mother cared for her every day," Iona continued. "Some people feared soldiers would come if they helped her. But my mother said a sick woman is still a human being. She stayed with us for almost 2 months. Elias lowered his head. Did she suffer?" Iona looked at the flames. "She missed you every single day." Those simple words broke something deep inside him. For years he had imagined his mother dying in fear. Now he learned she had spent her last days surrounded by people who showed her kindness. Tears slowly rolled down his dusty face. Iona did not interrupt. She simply gave him space to grieve. After a long silence, she opened the wooden box again. Inside lay an old blue ribbon, a small leather journal, and the silver spoon. She carefully handed him the journal. "It belonged to your mother." Elias opened the first page. The faded handwriting was unmistakable. Eliza Whitaker. His fingers shook as he turned another page. One sentence had been written with weak, uneven letters. "They fed me when my own people stopped looking for me." Elias closed the journal. He couldn't breathe. Everything he had believed for 20 years had been a lie. "Hollow Creek said the Apache kidnapped her," he whispered. "They searched for only 3 days," Iona answered quietly. Then they chose an easier story. For the first time in years, Elias realized something painful. His mother had never been abandoned by strangers. She had been abandoned by her own town. The next morning, Elias quietly repaired more fences and carried water without saying much. He wasn't fixing the shelter anymore. He was trying to repair himself. 5 peaceful days passed. Then one afternoon, dust appeared on the southern trail. 3 riders were coming. Sheriff Amos Creedy led the group. Behind him rode 2 townsmen. Martha Bell followed in a wagon. When they stopped outside the shelter, the sheriff looked first at Elias, then at Iona. His face hardened. "We've been looking for you, Whitaker." "I got lost," Elias answered. Creedy glanced at Iona. "Looks like someone found you." The men behind him laughed. Elias didn't laugh. "I would have died without her." Martha looked around the shelter. "You've been living here?" "I've been recovering." Sheriff Creedy stepped closer. "Pack your things. We're leaving." Then he pointed toward Iona. "As for her, I'll report this place to the territorial office. These medicine huts have no business near cattle routes." Before Elias could answer, another sound echoed across the canyon. Hoofbeats. 3 Apache riders slowly appeared on the ridge. At their front rode an old man with silver hair. Gray Elk. He calmly dismounted and walked toward the group. In his hands rested another old leather book. Without fear, he offered it to Elias. This belonged to your mother." Inside the cover was Eliza's handwriting. There was another message written beneath it. "If my son ever learns the truth, tell him I was never alone." Martha Bell gasped. "I know that handwriting." "We copied church hymns together when we were girls." Her face turned pale. The sheriff tried to speak. "That doesn't prove anything." "It proves everything," Elias answered. "You stopped searching after 3 days. My mother was alive." "She was cared for." "You told a lie because it was easier than admitting you gave up." The canyon fell silent. No one had an answer. Even the sheriff's own men lowered their eyes. Gray Elk spoke softly. "Some people remember because they loved. Others forget because the truth is too expensive." The sheriff slowly climbed back onto his horse. For the first time, he had nothing left to say. One by one, the riders turned around. Before leaving, Martha looked at Iona with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry." It wasn't enough, but it was the first honest thing Hollow Creek had said in 20 years. As the dust disappeared into the distance, Gray Elk looked at Elias. "Your town will never be the same. Neither will you." That evening, Elias stood beneath an old cottonwood tree. He looked toward the road leading back to Hollow Creek, then toward Iona's small shelter. "I don't belong in town anymore," he said quietly. "But I don't want to disturb your peace either. I'll build my own cabin farther down the wash. Close enough to help, far enough to respect your home." For a long moment, Iona said nothing. Then she nodded. "Build your door facing the east. The morning sun is kinder than the western wind." Elias smiled. "I'll trust your advice." During the following weeks, he built a small cabin with his own hands. He repaired fences for nearby ranchers to earn lumber. He never cut down the old cottonwood because Gray Elk had once said, "It remembers where the water sleeps." People in Hollow Creek talked about him. Some called him foolish. Others called him a traitor. Sheriff Creedy avoided him. Martha Bell quietly began telling people the truth about Eliza. Months later, sickness spread through Hollow Creek. One frightened father carried his little daughter all the way to Iona's shelter. He could barely look into her eyes. Iona simply asked, "Has she eaten?" The man broke into tears. Soon more families arrived. The same people who once feared her now begged for her help. Iona never asked who deserved kindness. She treated everyone. Elias carried water, split firewood, cooked soup, warmed blankets. He never asked where anyone came from. By the next spring, his cabin was finished. On a small wooden shelf rested only 3 treasures: his mother's silver spoon, her blue ribbon, her old journal. Not as trophies, but as reminders that truth always survives. One quiet evening, Iona walked into his cabin carrying 2 bowls of hot stew. She placed one gently in front of him. No promises were spoken. No grand words of love were needed. The silence between them felt warm. Outside, the desert wind moved softly through the sage. Elias picked up the silver spoon that had once belonged to his mother. He looked at Iona, then at the simple meal before him. For the first time since childhood, he finally understood what home truly meant. It was never built by fear. It was built by kindness. And it had all begun with one simple question. Have you eaten? Thank you so much for watching this story all the way till the end. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. It really helps us a lot. If you want to watch more exciting stories like this, don't forget to subscribe our page right now. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is right now? And if this story touched your heart, please send some stars. Every single star gives us huge motivation to keep creating more amazing videos for you. See you in the next story. Take care of your friends.